Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. This is your co-host, Peter Schrappen of Northwest Marine Trade Association fame or infamy. There's Mark Bunzel, my co-host. Hi, Mark. Good evening, sir.
Hi, everybody.
How's it going? There's the Landons popping in there. Hi there.
Yep.
Hi,
And
Aaron,
our guest
Aaron
for
Barnett.
tonight,
Yeah,
Aaron Barnett from
speaker.
Wsshington Sea Grant. And Aaron's going to talk to us about that wonderful subject. We promised no jokes, no puns, but we're going to talk about pump out. And pretty serious these days. And Aaron's going to give us a few tips about it and show us, as I like to say, there's an app for that.
That's right. And we've got a big crowd tonight. If you'd like to use the chat function, please do so. If you want to chime in right now and let us know where you're hailing from, that would be fun to see where our audience is. Yeah, I think this is episode 22, Mark. I don't know. I've kind of lost track, but we'll get our
22.
Is that right? Right on.
We're still on the air. They haven't pulled the plug on us yet.
They've tried. What a lovely day. Did you get a chance to get outside much today, Mark?
No.
Oh.
We are in lockdown mode with getting the Wagner guide done. So Lorena keeps Leonard and I just chained to our desks to get things done and ready. We got 2 more weeks to go before we go to the printer.
Wow. And this is going to be bigger and better than ever before, right?
528 pages of goodness.
See, I'm asking all these softballs, Mark. I'm going to expect some reciprocity with these softball questions later on.
I'm waiting for a good legal and policy question to come up, and then I'm going to go for the jugular.
Oh, smart man. You've been waiting for that, huh?
Yeah.
Well, cool. Yeah, we've had a full week this week at Northwest Marine Trade Association. I had a couple of meetings with Seattle City Council members talking about the Harbor Patrol. And it looks like our message is getting heard. It looks like we have some momentum there to keep the Seattle Harbor Patrol within police department. Those things can change, but the city council's taking up those discussions in earnest. So that was something that I wanted to share with viewers this evening.
And what was their reaction? Is it a general, gee, we don't have the funding, or are they sympathetic?
Oh, I think their general reaction was not knowing much about Harbor Patrol as much as we know about it, and I think they got lobbied by potentially the fire department's lobby about wanting to have the dive unit as part of their that realm. So we did a lot of education, which is what lobbying is advocacy and education, and answered technical questions. That there's only 28 Harbor Patrol, there should be more, but so toeing the line there. So yeah, it was a good back and forth. It was kind of democracy in action. So yeah.
Good. Well, we have some updates, not too many because we're winding down the season here. We still have people out boating, which is great. It's been a great shoulder season so far. I was talking to somebody on the East Coast today and they said, well, when does your season end out there? And I said, well, we've got great weather this fall. And, but usually about now, things start to wind down. It gets a little cooler out on the water. And as we saw over the last couple of days, we had some incredible winds. 2 days ago, Leonard, we were looking, it was up in the upper 40s in some areas, gusting to that. And we had friends calling us and saying, gee, could you go run out and check on our boat, make sure our lines are okay? And that's all good. So yeah, we're winding down. So Leonard, Lorena, what do you have for updates? Anything?
I was just going to jump in here. We've got a couple greetings in our chat from Stanwood checking in. We've got Diane Lander saying hi, asking about the Seattle Boat Show. We might talk about it at the end of the show. How's that for a tease? Got Ginny Schrappen saying hi from St. Louis. That's a nice last name. Oh, that's my mom. And Port Gamble saying hi. That's Sean Cranky and Sue Peterson from Bellevue. Awesome. Thanks for saying hi in there. So yeah, sorry, Landons, go for it.
Well, as we all know, the U.S.-Canada border is still closed, probably will remain closed for some time for non-essential travel like tourism and recreation and entertainment. But if you have essential travel, which is approved, boaters need to be aware that there are many customs locations that are closed during COVID. In our table online at wagnerguide.com/COVID-19, you'll find a list in the table of those customs clearance locations that are open. So if you don't find the name you're looking for, that means they're temporarily closed. And again, that's on our table online.
add to that that the majority of the Canadian clearance stations that used to be out there, now a large majority of them are closed right now and have been during COVID-19. So again, go to the table for that.
For example, Bidwell Harbor is closed, and Lightering Dock and Prince Rupert is closed, in Salt Spring. So keep that in mind.
So speaking of COVID-19, and Lorena mentioned the COVID-19 table that we've been maintaining with the status of marinas and borders and communities, and that's going to continue. It's going through a process right now this week and the next month or so, and we're transitioning that to a permanent part of the WaggonerGuide.com, and it'll have updates, information that's related to COVID or any pandemic-related issues, as well as any other changes that happen to marinas or communities or borders. So that's going through a transition, and you'll be able to get at that table through WaggonerGuide.com/COVID-19. And in addition, a synonym for that and the permanent location will be WaggonerGuide.com/updates. And so again, that's going through a small transition, but it'll be the same thing, table, easy to find information and information about marinas and borders, any destinations, anything that changed. Speaking of that, and a little bit border related too, and this is for the Canadians that this is kind of a put it in your tickler file for when the border is open. So for Canadians and foreign vessels that are coming in here, the cruising license is an important part, and that's a piece of paper that foreign vessels, including Canadian vessels, can request, and it's good for up to 1 year, and it saves money and saves U.S. Customs and Border Protection crossing process. In the past, in order to get the cruising permit, you had to actually go into one of the ports of entries to the office, to one of the port of entry CBP offices, and request the cruising license. And there used to be a charge, inadvertent charge out of that. And the charge has been waived anymore, so that's a zero cost for a cruising license. And you can now request the cruising license through the Roam app. So you can, Canadian coming across, if you want to, you can request a cruising license as you report in with Roam, and in some cases they will be able to email you the cruising license. So they've greatly simplified the process for getting across the border for Canadians. And to that, we kind of go, yay, please, good job, thank you. What was the other one? The cruising license and Roam, and I think that was about it.
That's it.
Yep, got it. That's our list for right now.
Well, I just wanted to add to what Lorena said about the status for the border. There was a radio interview with Prime Minister Trudeau in Canada that was reported in Bloomberg, and his quote is, "We continue to make sure that Canadian safety is top of mind when we move forward. We see cases in the United States and elsewhere around the world, and we need to continue to keep those border controls in place." And he's saying what we're seeing does not look good for the border to open anytime soon. And he goes on to point out the number of cases in the US versus the number of cases in Canada, about half. And so there's the word. When's it going to open? It's going to be a little while until we see some definite movement in the numbers and improving the numbers in the US. And we're all hoping that by next spring that we might see that movement. So it is still our most popular asked question. I get it almost every phone call I get from my Canadian friends. They ask me, and I'm not even a Canadian, when do you think the border is going to open? And now we have the word directly from Prime Minister Trudeau.
Yeah, I was looking at the numbers today, Mark, and as you've seen the news and read, just not in the U.S., but around the world, the numbers seem to be going in the wrong direction. And looking in particular, I like to look at that R0 number, which is how many people are infected by an infected person. And in Washington State, we're at 1.4 in the western part of Washington State. So what the governor wants us to get is to below 1 before he'll start making too much more movement around reopening in different phases.
Okay. All right. Meanwhile, boats are still selling well. Parts are selling well. Repairs, the repair people are busy. We've got a booming boating economy as well as RVs.
Good point, Mark. I talked to Renaissance Marine Group today. They're out of Clarkston, Washington. They own that group owns Armstrong Marine as well. And Bruce Larson, who you may know, was besides himself on how well that the retail is doing on their vessel. So yeah, it was a fabulous conversation we had. It was a bright spot in my day to hear Bruce just gush about how well boat sales are doing. And a couple other pieces of good news, Mark, if I may.
Sure.
The Ballard locks, the BNSF has been looking at trying to repair that bridge that opens and closes right there. I'm sure you've seen. For a while, they're talking about a whole bunch of different designs that had us frankly worried that might preclude those tall masted sailboats from visiting Lake Union. Another win for us, we successfully advocated that we need the current situation to remain or something even better. And so they went back to the drawing board, they heard us, and now what they're gonna do is what's called a major improvement around the current BNSF trestle. So if you've been over to the Ballard locks, Hiram M. Chittenden locks, if you will, you knew that, Mark, right?
Yes, I did.
I think I've heard where that's the top 5 most popular Seattle tourist destinations.
Yes.
It's fabulous.
One of the top 5 in the state is also Deception Pass.
Oh,
I had to
that one.
bring the conversation up here towards Anacortes.
On point. And then speaking of the Ballard locks, the large lock is closed until December 6th. So before you start throwing stuff at your computer screen, that actually is good news. A coalition of us, I say we, advocated to our federal delegation to repair those locks, and they heard our message. They don't do earmarks anymore in DC, but they found some money in the seat cushions and in the glove compartment box of our nation's capital, and we're going to see some repairs going on in the locks until December 6th. So good news there. So pack your patience.
Fantastic. So I can go through the small locks and use my short mooring lines to throw them over to the lock tender.
That's right. You can tie up. BNSF's not going to get rid of that tie-up area either. So all good in the Ballard area.
That's good to know. That's great. All right. Any other updates? I think that covers it. Our update section is going to get a little smaller during the wintertime, but
the only thing I was going to add to the comment about the new boats, lots of new boats out there. We were just chatting with some good friends that we met in Sea of Cortez, and they live on their boat in La Paz during this time of year. And the other part of the year in the summer, they're up in the California area. And one of the first things they commented on, they said in California, it's just incredible, the number of new boats out there and new boaters. So definitely boating is growing. It's a popular thing to do. I think he even said that they're finding some new boaters headed that are in California or in Mexico as well. So it was interesting talking to him.
Interesting. Well, if we need the Mexico covered in the Wagner Guide, I think I know 2 people right on this show who know it fairly well and would probably love to write about it.
Are you pre-announcing a chapter or something?
Yeah, thank you, Mark. I never thought you'd ask.
I could see Lorena already going, what is he saying? Get him off the air. Hit that mute button. Anyway, well, with that, we're going to try to make a smooth transition.
Yeah, good luck there, Mark.
Yeah, I know. Aaron's laughing already. When we first invited Aaron, we needed somebody who was an expert in the whole topic of pump out in the state of Washington. And we've had plenty of pump out jokes with Aaron. And I said, we can spice it up tonight with a few of them. And he's heard them all. But I have to say, seriously, thank God we have somebody like Aaron who's watching out for this issue, watching for budget dollars to be able to bring pump out services and so forth to different locations. And one of the things he's going to talk to us about that, but also that now we have this great new app that can help you find the nearest pump out. And he's going to demo it. There's some great things about it. You're going to get a seasick, Aaron, as you move that camera around, though. That's
well, Peter's telling me to make it eye level. This is
exactly.
this is an iPad.
That's so honest.
I'll put it on my printer.
All right. So, Aaron, give us a background. We know the pump out situation changed in terms of no discharge within Puget Sound. And But you've told me some other facts about this. So give us the background, please.
You mean the whole pump out program that goes back to the early 90s, or the current no discharge zone?
Both, please.
Okay, well, I'll back up. The Clean Vessel Act of 1992 pays for all this. It pays for the pump outs that you encounter if they're free or not more than $5. Some of the pump out boats, and it pays for my salary. It pays for us to give away things like these adapters that we've given away thousands of. And that program is funded through a tax on recreational boating sales, like fishing tackle, gas, other boating related purchases. So it's one of those few programs that actually give back to
So I
boaters.
pay my taxes and I get it back.
Yeah, you actually do get something back in this particular case. I know in Washington that's not always the case, but at least you get something from the federal government. And so Wsshington Sea Grant has been the education and outreach arm of that program, which is managed by state parks, boating program in this state. And if anybody's wondering what Wsshington Sea Grant is, I have to plug it. We're an arm of NOAA, and we work in the same way that County Extension does. We channel research money and provide education and outreach to coastal stakeholders. Much of that is with the aquaculture industry, coastal resilience, oil spill prevention, things like that. So,
And how's the connection that goes through University of Washington?
Oh, okay. The Sea Grant program is located at 33 different colleges around the country. So there's an Oregon Sea Grant at Oregon State University, California, UC Davis has a Sea Grant program, MIT in Massachusetts has a Sea Grant program. So every coastal and Great Lakes state has a Sea Grant program located at usually the land grant college. In this state, it's at University of Washington, because our land grant college is in Pullman. So for obvious reasons, we're at the UW.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and we've been around since the late 60s.
So what kind of money are we talking is getting pumped back into the pump out program? Because I've noticed over the last 5 years, I see pump out carts all over at marinas. And I've started to see more pump out locations also.
Well, fortunately, it's one of the easier grants to get. The cap per state is 1.5 million, and that's a matching program. So say a marina wants to put in a pump out. The average price for that would probably be $20,000. They have to come up with 75% of that. They have to come up 25%. The state provides 75% of the 25% match. And then part of the conditions of use are that they have to make it available to the public, and they can't charge more than $5. And the reason why most of them are free, it's just easier for them to make it free than to figure in all this accounting for operation and maintenance. And the program does pay for operation and maintenance, by the way. And one of the reasons why you've seen more pump outs show up is we started an active push in 2010, working with port managers across the state to get them up to speed on the grant program. So we put in about 65 new pump outs.
Wow.
Since 2010, yeah. And in 2010, we started at 4 million gallons a year. Now we're pumping out about 10 to 11 million gallons a year through the pump outs that we monitor. And the sewage is monitored, by the way. They have hour meters on, so we can track them.
Huh.
Track the gallon. Mm-hmm.
Sounds like a great program that's working and effective. And I assume if somebody's watching that and they don't have a pump out in their marina, they could talk to their marina manager and say, hey, this is a program, you don't have to pay for the whole thing. There are state grants.
That's right.
Just in case they don't know, they could let their marina manager, they want to have a pump out. Now, how about the pump out boats? Because I know I used to have in my area in Anacortes, Pump Me Out with Dwight, and Dwight retired, now taken over by another group. And of course, we've got the Fecal Freak in Roche Harbor. Now I don't know that your program's even touched that.
It is. It's part of the program.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and we've got an operator in Seattle that runs around and pumps out boats. So those operators are subsidized through your program?
Well, they are if they're free. Now we had a vendor called Terry and Sons who was under contract with state for about 5 years, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, which manages the main source of funding for this through the Sport Fish Restoration Program, changed the rules, and so the state is going to be doing that again, but through an RFP process in 1-year blocks, and generally through counties. So they've changed their approach. But if you're on Lake Union or Shoal or right now Lake Washington, it's only commercial. So if you're getting paid if you're paying $20 to $30 a pump out from a mobile service, it's 100% private. Because part of the rules are to get the grant program funds is that you can't charge more than $5. So that's why most of them are just free.
So $5 is a little bit tough though if somebody's operating a boat with a crew member and running around with gas and repairs on the boat. Tough.
Yeah, they get reimbursed for the operation and maintenance anyway, and so they have to subtract that $5 from the reimbursement. So for accounting purposes, it's easier for folks just to make it free because they spend a lot of time figuring in that $5 and accounting for it. That's why most of them in this state are free.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they've just decided it's just not worth the hassle to charge $5.
So somebody who's watching, if they've got their boat in Lake Union, who is the operator that they can call and actually get pump out services?
Well, there's 3 of them. There's Seattle Pump Out, there's Sandy Tug, there's SS Head. If you go to Pumpout Washington, their phone numbers are on it. That's our website, but you can also Google that. So we have a question. Can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
Oh yeah, Pump Me Out is out of business. Oh, there's Dwight. As for Victoria and Vancouver, I don't know, but they are going to be treating their sewage in Victoria. That is true. So
Terrific.
And I'll put that Pumpout Washington website in the chat box.
yeah, that'd be great. And if you could put on Pump Me Out's website and maybe up there too, that'd be great because he's on Lake Union as well.
So we got a comment in, thank you, Diane, that SS Head won't take any new clients, that they're completely subscribed. And Pump Out Seattle is really good. Her name is Katie, and excellent service. So thank you, Diane, for that review. Yeah, good to know. Now, all of these people that we're talking about right now, I assume they're listed in the new app.
They are.
So tell us about that.
Actually, not yet. Sorry,
Oh.
Go ahead.
Well, go ahead and tell us about the app, and it sounds like a fantastic program, and just that this resource is available, and it's available free. The app is free. You can download it for iOS or for Android, and you're often finding a pump out. Tell us about it.
Okay. Well, first off, if anybody's interested, they can Google Pump Out Nav. Just Google the words Pump Out, one word, PUMPOUT, and then NAV, N-A-V. You'll go to the California State Boating Program page. This app was developed by California with funds from the Clean Vessel Act program, and is national in scope, which means that if you are bringing your boat from California to Washington, you can find out where the nearest pump out is no matter where you are. And it's interactive, which means that you can report a problem. You can create an account if you want to track the amount of poop that you pump out. Some people, believe it or not, like to do that. Personally, once I'm done with that, I'm good. But there are people who do track that. So you can do that. So anyway, I'm going to go to the app right now, okay?
Sure. And while you're setting that up, Aaron told me before the show that there's even discussions now with groups in British Columbia about adding, and some of that data is already in there.
Yeah, that's true. The Canadian pump outs are on our static Google map on Pumpout Washington. Like I said, it's static, not interactive like this. Now I'm going to scroll out here. Can everybody see that?
Yep, we can see it.
So you notice that the California, Oregon, and Washington and Vermont have been populated with pump outs. Florida, I think, is in the process of getting on board. Maybe Rhode Island. So anyway, we'll go to Washington because that's what we're talking about. That's the most important place on earth. And you'll see.
I see some red in there, Aaron. What does that mean?
Okay, so the red thumbtacks are non-operable pump outs. So like the pump out at Nia Bay, there, out of Nia Bay, that one has been shut down because they're just going to change the way they do it. It was put in not a very good spot, and they're going to go to a portable pump out. The pump out on, say, Blake Island, that's non-operational now because they have some upland sewage issues, so we've made it non-operational. Now, you'll notice at the bottom, it says the closest is 1 miles away. Now that's 1.8 miles away from my location, which is my house in Port Hadlock. So if anybody wants to hassle me, you can find out where I live.
You're a brave man.
Yeah, we're going TP in the night, Mark.
I'll give you an adapter if you come by my house. How's that? So the way it works is you say you're down near Des Moines. You say, okay, well, there's a pump out. You pull that up. It says it's operational. You click on that. And there's one of the pump outs at the fuel dock at City of Des Moines. And their phone number is there somewhere. Maybe not on this one. Anyway, there's their address. It says the pump house, look, the access is year-round, 24/7. It's on the fuel dock. Their phone number is in the icon down there. You can call them directly. Now, if you want to report a problem, you just click report a problem, and you can select from these different options. No power, leaking, access. Let's just say no vacuum. You can say no vacuum, and then you can type in this pump out. Whoops. This pump out sucks. Literally.
Well, that's a good thing. They're supposed to. But
yeah.
This, I think, is great because I've talked to so many boaters who will complain about a pump out not operating.
Mm-hmm.
And this actually is going to capture that data and send it to the appropriate people for action. Am I correct?
And that's right. And it goes to myself. It goes to the Clean Vessel Act program manager at State Parks, and it goes to the marina management if they choose to. And pretty much everyone has chosen to do that. They want to know when these things are down. And a lot of times it's not a problem. It's fortunately operator error or something really simple. It's usually a simple problem, so they can get back up and running quickly. But if it's a bigger problem, then it's a bigger problem. Oftentimes it's missing nozzles, things like that. Now you can also log your pump out.
You sent a message to poor Scott Wilkins, right, about that his pump out sucks.
Yeah, he got that, but I'll call him tomorrow and tell him it's fine. That we're using this for training purposes. So down on the bottom, see it says me. That's if you have an account. Now you can actually create an account and track your sewage or whatever through this account. I haven't really used that, but I'd be interested to know from people that do. If anybody out there in Cyberland does do it, let me know what you think. And then here's some stuff that we're still working on. This app was launched in August, and it's still California centric, but there's some federal laws on here, but it's still basically focused on California, which will change. Let's see here.
And I noticed for some of our viewers who are trailer boaters that this also covers some of the lakes within Washington. Is that correct?
That's right. Goes to Eastern Washington. There's like Lake Washington. There's Eastern Washington. Now I want to point out something real important too, since we're over in Eastern Washington. See the Fields Point landing pump out on Lake Washington has an issue. So this is real important. If you look down near the bottom, you'll see it says pump out station. Now you can choose between pump out station or dump station. So if you have a porta potty and you need to find a dump station, this will just filter out just that. So then you press apply. So these are the porta potty dump stations on Lake Chelan. That one should be over here. That's somehow got wrong.
Good thing we're doing this.
Here we go. So there's one at Manson. There's a pump out there, or a dump station there, porta potty dump station located on the breakwater, right there. So if you have a small boat and you have a porta potty, you can actually find a place to deposit that.
Which I could see how that would be valuable in my neighborhood. We have a dump station at Washington Park in Anacortes, but it's not down at the dock. It's up actually on the driveway as you're leaving. So I'm sure this shows exactly where that is, so you could actually find it.
So where is that?
Lake Washington Park on the northwest end of Anacortes, which I'm not seeing it there.
Okay, well, this is still a work in process, so we're still finding things that weren't put in there.
But that's accurately showing where the pump out station is at the Cap Sandy Marina, which is terrific.
Yeah. So there's
somebody else wouldn't know where that is unless
No.
they saw it on the map or on the aerial picture.
So like another thing, if you go to Port Townsend, their dump station is behind the showers.
Ah.
Yeah.
A little more than I
you gotta
bargained
walk
for.
up there. Yeah, you actually got to schlep your stuff up there, walk it behind that building, and then there's a door there with a big toilet that's designated just for porta potty waste.
I know we listed in the Wagner guide that they have porta potty
Genius.
pump out, but we don't tell where it is. This is valuable.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's still missing, information. So if it's missing something, let me know and I'll definitely add it. But I found actually 50 more pump outs in the state on top of what the old original list had.
Good.
Now, also, if you're in Oregon, you're trailer boating down in Oregon, you can find floating restrooms in Oregon. I'm just gonna, kind of
I think it's noting locally the one at Oak Harbor.
Let's see.
The only ones I know floating in this area are Oak Harbor and Pleasant Harbor.
Yeah. And there's one in Bellingham too. They should be on there.
Yeah, I don't see it there.
Okay, well, I'll put them on.
The other ones would be the state park ones, the Reed Harbor as the floating. And actually, there was a question on the question and answer about something about whether they're still there or something. And they're
Yeah, it is.
seasonal.
Actually, that's this one right here.
Yeah, and
That
they're
one,
seasonal.
That's the one at Reed Harbor. And that one is
Right.
not working right now. The handle broke. So
And did you find out the handle was broken from a user's report?
Yeah, Mark,
No.
why'd you break the handle?
Yeah. No, I actually talked to the ranger. I called up there and talked to the manager, and they were ordering another part. This is about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I'll call them and see if it's in. We're going to be putting the state's going to be putting a pump out in Fossil Bay, by the way, on Susha about 2 or 3 years from now. I bet everyone's going to be excited to hear that.
Yes, yes. Hey, we have a question on the chat line that could be a good one from Brian. Is it common for pump out stations to have non-potable water for rinsing?
Yeah, actually, that's a requirement if it's funded through the grant program. That's actually required, and it's supposed to be designated non-potable water. Over time, oftentimes those hoses disappear and the signs disappear, but it's very normal, and it's actually, like I said, it's a requirement.
Excellent. So,
Mark, did you have some questions about the no discharge zone?
yeah. Tell us a little bit more about no discharge, and then I'll pop my question about gray water. But,
Okay.
start off just with the no discharge, because this came into being, I want to say 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And we try to note it throughout the Wagner Guide just to make sure everybody knows. But what are the ramifications of this?
Well, here, let me. So the no discharge zone started actually with the Department of Health Shellfish Sanitation Program, and they gave Department of Ecology some money to research and apply for a no discharge zone status through the Environmental Protection Agency 5, 6 years ago, and I think 2 years ago it was put in place. There's been some litigation, which I don't know has been settled yet. Maybe you
No,
guys.
I just checked on this issue today, Mark. Following up, not because of the show, but sure because of the show. And yeah, any day now, the federal court in DC will be making a determination as to what the next steps are. We, as a boating community, have advocated for the California approach, which has been so right now it's illegal to dump raw sewage in Puget Sound, and this would eliminate type 1 and type 2 marine sanitation devices, which doesn't affect that many boaters, but the boaters it does impact are the larger vessels, the super yachts that would now have one less reason to come to our state. And it's just to throw such a whole enchilada approach to this no discharge zone, which would make our no discharge zone the largest in the country, was something that we thought was a little extreme. So we were more for targeted no discharge zones, pilot it to see what kind of water quality improves. And that we tried, Mark. we knocked on the door and sat at the table, and that message never got through to Department of Ecology.
So even super yachts are no discharge.
Yep.
That's correct. Yep.
Okay.
So the way it works is basically, as Peter hinted to, it builds on top of the already no discharge zone related to raw sewage, and it outlaws type 1 and type 2 marine sanitation devices. And for recreational boaters, that's usually something like Electrosand. It's about a $1,500 item, and it treats the sewage by turning it into by using electricity and salt to kill the bugs, and then you can discharge it. So anyway, those are now illegal to use as far as recreational boating is concerned.
And where I see that anymore is not so much that people running out to buy it, but when they buy a used boat, sometimes it'll proudly say that it has a type 2 marine sanitation device. And I advise people not to get too excited about that, because that's no longer usable.
That's
Yeah,
right.
we'll see. I mean, I'm still optimistic that we're going to win this one. It's a really draconian approach by ecology to wield a big hammer like they did. If you notice, I'm trying to be not as diplomatic as I always am. I feel strongly about this one. Tell me how you really feel, Peter.
Yeah.
Thanks for asking. No, it was a bit ridiculous by ecology the way they went about this. So yeah, trying to use the federal system right now, and we've got a lawsuit. Not we, the American Waterways operators have brought a lawsuit against ecology, and really the EPA, because that's where the ultimately makes the final determination. I mean, these are marine sanitation devices that meet Coast Guard standards. The larger vessels, these are the latest and greatest technologies. And we also, one more thing, we found that it was one more reason for law enforcement to get on your vessel to see if you've been dumping illegally. So yeah, that was another reason that we had such opposition to it.
So as long as you brought that up, just for our viewers' sake, what's the proper procedure to show that you're not dumping?
Well, as a former Coast Guard boarding officer myself, I can tell you one thing. That's to put, get the Y valve and get it wired shut in the proper configuration with a zip tie. And then, if a boarding officer chooses to look at it, then you'll be all set. If you do have a type 2 marine sanitation device or type 1, and you're in Canada, I think you can use it. And so if you go between the borders, just make sure that, you have your Y valve secured when you come across the border, because the Coast Guard will board you there, and they do. And depending on the boarding officer, they may take a good close look at that.
So are you saying Customs and Border Protection will actually look for that when they're looking for fruit and vegetables?
Customs won't, but Coast Guard boarding officers will.
Okay.
And
I have a couple of questions, Aaron.
Yeah.
So one of them on the pump outs, occasionally we'll find a pump out at a marina that's it's not accessible. Basically, it's been mounted in it or stationed in an area where there's no way that there's enough room for us to pull into it. Both boats are permanently moored too close to it. I can't get in and out of it. It's too shallow. What do I do with that? How do I, is there any requirement for that, or should I just kind of go, well, that's not one I can use, sorry? Or is there some way that, or are they, if they had grant money, is there some obligation for them to make them truly accessible?
well, I'll give you a little bit of history on that. It's actually interesting. When the grant program first came on the scene in the early mid 90s, people were getting the grant money and they were putting a pump out in like the most inconvenient place. Either it was required by the county, said, okay, I'll get a pump out, but I'm just going to put it over there because no one's going to use it. And so a lot of the older ones are children of that era. That's the way they did it at that particular time. What we're trying to do now is trying to make them more accessible when a marina is being expanded or rebuilt, making them think about putting it in a more accessible spot, deeper water, actually even away from the fuel dock. The fuel dock often is not always the best place for a pump out because if it's busy, it can take up space. So we've even encouraged some marinas to put them away from the fuel dock. And actually, I've even encouraged some marinas not to put in a pump out. If you have a state park or a facility that has one right next door, and you are not required to have one by the county or the city, then, why would you put one in? There's one right there. So a lot of those are products of the past. And what you can do is talk to the manager, tell them about the grant program, which they're probably aware of. Or you can always email me and I'll pass it on to the state program manager because sometimes she's aware of projects that are coming up with the facility. By the way, my email is aaronb5@uw.edu. That's AARONB5@uw.edu. But complain,
And your home address, Aaron?
What's that?
Your home address? No, just kidding. Just joking. You know that.
No, I'll give you an adapter if you come by. I help.
That's what you get for trick or treat, huh?
Party at Barnett's.
So email you on that one. There was also one that we wanted to use that, it was actually when we were doing some of our marina research, and they have a pump out, and you have to make an appointment to use it. So is that within the scope of what was intended?
It is. It's within reasonable business hours. So when they say accessible, there's actually a lot of wiggle room there. So a marina can shut down their pump out after 5 o'clock. They can make it open 24/7, like a lot of them are, or they can shut it down during business hours. Some operators are afraid that boaters can use pump outs to pump out their bilges, which can really damage them. So maybe they've had a bad experience with that. So they can do that, and also they get reimbursed for their staff time if they come down and pump out your boat too. So there's a little bit of a financial incentive for some of these folks to do it themselves. It's like when the Fecal Freak pumps you out in Roach Harbor, they get reimbursed for the time and benefits for that person to do that.
Well, my little side story of that, my daughter worked at the dock at Roche Harbor, and when she got the summer job there, she was there for 3 seasons. I said, make sure you run the Fecal Freak. She said, Dad, there is no way I'm going to deal with the Fecal Freak. And I said, the tips are phenomenal. And I've heard those kids during the summer, and they deserve it. They come around the boat, it's free, and it's a nice thing to do to tip these college kids who are trying to earn some money during the summer, and they're making hundreds of dollars in tips, and they're reporting every dollar of that.
Oh, amen.
So anyway, best job at Roche Harbor is running the Fecal Freak. And just to add, and I hope my daughter is not watching, but I don't think she ever watches the show. The day she was running the Fecal Freak, she called me and she said, Dad, I made a fortune in tips today. You'd be so proud of me. She said, it only leaked on me once. And I said, oh. Now she knew enough to carry a spare set of clothes, because anybody who's dealt with pump out knows your worst fear is not having the suction on right and actually getting sprayed. Do you have any? You're the expert, Aaron. Are there tips around this?
Yeah, it's called one of these.
Okay.
Actually, yeah, you're talking about the brown shower, the infamous brown shower. Well, actually, if you don't have one of these, you can avoid that problem by opening the valve a little bit on the nozzle before you put it in the deck fitting. That's what if you watch the professionals like Dwight and his son, Pump Me Out.
Yep.
They crack the valve a little bit and then put it in. You never want to let the vacuum build up and then open the valve quickly. So crack that valve on the nozzle and just kind of work it in there and let it build up that way and do it slowly.
And is it the right protocol when you're done to put the hose in the seawater and pull in some seawater to rinse the hose?
It's a nice thing to do, but it's that's courteous. Rinse it off. That's what I do.
Okay.
Some people.
That's what we do. We do too, and we appreciate it when other people do that too, when we come along. So very much appreciated.
Yeah. A few drops aren't going to hurt anything.
Well, yeah, I was talking to somebody today about some boating techniques, and for everything we were talking about, he said, yeah, I watched the YouTube video about that. I watched that on YouTube. We were talking about galvanic corrosion, and he said, yeah, I watched the YouTube video on that. So maybe, Aaron, you need to do a YouTube video on how to properly pump out.
I have one. It's me 10 years ago when I'm younger and thinner.
Ah, okay.
You guys want to see it? No, we don't have time. But
Why don't
you,
we can have in the next, send me a link and I can put it in the next week's chat box and go from there.
It shows how to use
sure
the
we
adapter.
can search it and find it.
YouTube, Mark, is the second busiest search engine behind Google.
Yeah.
A little trivia.
Yeah. So are there any other techniques? I think your idea of getting a little suction backed off on that is a good one. But, and using the fittings that you've been giving out. How many of those have you been giving out at boat shows over the years?
We've given out about 13,000.
Wow.
It's a $2.50 item, that you can get from Granger Industrial. Yeah, they've been very popular. We just don't put them in the cute tubes anymore because we're tired of putting them in those. But anybody can call me or email me, and I'll send you one in the mail. And if you have a Ranger tug, Camino Troll, or any trawler type boat, you need the smaller size, so let me know. And I'll also send you one of these Orca rangefinder cards that we developed. This is a handheld rangefinder for the new Orca B whale wise regulations. I'll let you know if you're around 400 yards away. Send you one of those.
We heard about those. I didn't know they were available yet. I heard they were
Yeah.
under development. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So
We're still
Aaron,
working.
help me understand gray water. I know what it is, but I don't think all of our viewers do. And when is gray water legal or illegal?
Gray water is only illegal if it's in a municipality like, say, City of Des Moines, that won't allow you to do it. Nationally, on the federal level, it's legal for recreational boaters to discharge gray water.
So describe gray water.
Gray water is, it's dishwater. From your sink right to the through-hole fitting. Dishwater,
shower.
dish soap, shower, yeah. That's gray water. Some places in California may have some legislation against that on a regional level. But the judge ruled when they were ruling on the vessel, it's called this Clean Boating Act of 2008, which actually applies to commercial vessels. They ruled that recreational vessels are exempt from gray water discharge regulation. The judge said that. So yeah, you can do that. Yeah.
Do you think that'll ever change? I had somebody, we've seen some boats that have gray water tanks built into them. And I assume that's to keep from discharging gray water in a marina.
Mm-hmm.
But if it ever gets required for many boats, it would be really difficult and expensive to retrofit.
Oh, amen, Mark. And I'd put a plug in there. That's the beauty of NMTA and RBOG being vigilant on this very specific issue and really holding the line to ensure that boaters can continue to discharge gray water. So yeah.
I need my bell, Peter. You work that plug right. There we go, right in there.
Well, if you want my opinion, it may happen in my lifetime, our lifetimes. I don't know, but you know how federal government is. They go for the low-hanging fruit.
I didn't know about the judge's ruling on gray water, and I think that says a lot because that means overturning an existing regulation or allowance.
There's a question about recommendations for dish soap. I don't know, anything biodegradable?
Diane, I will look into that one about Long Branch Marina. That's news to me that there is a sign at Long Branch that says no great water discharge. So.
There is. We were there this summer, and
I'm writing that down.
Great water. Yeah.
I think they could make their own rules about that. I think that's a management decision. Like I was saying, I think the city of Des Moines doesn't want gray water discharge either.
Yeah, there's no state requirement though.
No. No. I think the city of Seattle might have a requirement for liveaboards. I don't know. You guys probably know more about that than I do, but.
All right. Well, that looks like all the questions in the chat box. Anything else before we say goodnight to Aaron?
Hey, thanks a lot, you guys. This has been a real honor to be on here.
Oh, wow.
I don't know about an honor.
Yeah, geez.
Thank you. We're flattered.
Buttering us up, Mark.
Well, you got to understand, I have a pretty low bar.
It's quiet
Aaron,
in Jefferson County.
I said it at the beginning of the show, and I mean it. It's a dirty job, enough puns, but somebody does have to do it, and we're glad you're watching out for it and coming up with some things like the adapter and other things, and the app, spotting this app in California and bringing it up to Washington and populating it. And it looks like it's something the rest of us can help populate and also deal with what's broken or not broken.
Yeah.
And, that's terrific. We saw a lot of broken pump outs 2 summers ago. There apparently was some problems with the equipment, mainly up in Canada, that the Canadian government had recommended. It was a US equipment that required a special lubricant or something. And so many of the pump outs were not working, and that seems to have been resolved.
Well, we're really lucky here in the United States to have this program, pay for all this. And like you were hinting at, it's kind of an interactive program. It works better if everybody's involved, and the boaters are kind of the first line of this, the first line defense for keeping this equipment running. Really.
Yeah. Well, this will be a good way to grab feedback. And thank you very much for attending.
Sure. No,
Peter,
it's been
we've
my,
got a question on the chat line that came in that I'm going to throw to you from
Oh boy.
our beloved Diane Lander. And
Hi, Diane.
by the way, she is also appreciative to have Aaron on the show.
Faithful
But,
viewer, Diane.
What's the official word? And Diane wants us to hurry and answer this question because she wants to get over to watch the town halls that are on
Oh,
TV tonight.
I think those town halls have happened. Hate to be that guy, but good luck. Maybe she recorded them. But yeah, boat shows currently aren't allowed, Mark, in phase 2, which is where King County finds ourselves. But we're continuing to work with the governor's office. And we stand ready to roll out the Seattle Boat Show as you know it. But if the in-person events are not allowed, we're big believers in the show must go on. We'll have another big January promotion to keep the 74 tradition alive. So that's where we are, Mark. We're in a tough spot with the infection rates and our governor's policy on being cautious about reopening. I was on a call 2 weeks ago with the Fort Lauderdale International Boat Show promoter, and they are moving forward with their show in late October, and I will be curious to know how that show goes off, but that's where we find ourselves.
Yeah, well, being in Florida, they're a little bit more liberal on their COVID preparedness. So, but it will be interesting. The Fort Lauderdale Boat Show is just a huge event. Peter, you and I have been going for the last couple of years, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And I'm always amazed by the boats that show up there with helicopters and submarines and all kinds of things.
And that's just your boat.
Yeah, I wish.
I mean, what do we got on tap for next week, Mark?
Well, we've got Peter Ricks, who is with Novamar Insurance. And Peter is going to fill us in on the inside story of insurance. And there's so many things. I expect the chat line next week to really fire up with people with questions. We're going to try to anticipate some of your questions. Peter is studying already for this so that he's ready. And we're going to talk about it from the standpoint of when you sign up and buy your insurance and deal with what do you look for in an insurance policy? What are the things that people don't get that all of a sudden when something happens, they say, I didn't know that. I thought I was covered. And then tied into that, and I think we're going to have a lot of information there. We're going to talk about the claims process. I've had people say to me, well, if I go around and navigate using one of those placemats and I hit a rock, am I covered? And I talked to an insurance agent once, and he said, insurance is for when people do stupid things. So you are, as long as you've operated your boat with the right intent. And he'll talk about that. He'll also talk about some of those issues of consequential damage. And the one that years ago got everybody all excited is when a muskrat ate through a hose on a boat and the boat sunk. And one of the insurance companies said, well, that wasn't a maritime problem. That was a muskrat chewing on a hose, not covered. And then different policies then added a clause for consequential damage. So we'll talk about that because that's an interesting thing. The other thing that we saw happen this past week was lightning. And we saw the Washington State Ferry, Puyallup, actually take a lightning strike and be out of service for 2 days. It zapped the electronics. And then 2 days later, a lot of people are not aware of this, but we had a lightning strike near Anacortes, and it took out our fiber optic for 2 days. That was disastrous. So we'll talk about some of these different things that can happen and where you're covered on insurance and where you might want to make sure. And I'll clue you in on one thing, and you might want to do this before the show, is read your policy. It might put you to sleep, but see what you're covered and not covered. And it's all there in very clear black and white. It has to be by law. So that's what's going on there. And we have an expert with us.
Cool. I will be doing some reading this week then, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, fun show tonight. A little trivia for you, Mark. There is a native species to the Northwest that made the list for 11 animals that live the longest, and it actually came in at number 2. Guess what species that would be? And Landons and Aaron, you're welcome to chime in as well.
Whales.
Duck? A gooey duck?
Gooey duck, bing!
Oh,
You, 100.
Really?
Did you see that list, Aaron?
No, I just interviewed
just
a guy on
kidding.
gooey ducks for my radio show today.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Which so
165 years old,
Yeah.
they can live. So that,
No kidding.
yeah. Number 1 on the list was the Greenland shark.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
back to the gooey ducks. I'm a fan of cooking gooey duck, and all I can say is butter and garlic makes everything taste great.
I don't know about gooey duck.
Yeah, you got to be at the butter and garlic part.
I'm not a
well,
gooey duck
I
fan
do.
either.
I do gooey duck thinly sliced with butter and garlic, and tastes like chicken.
Ah.
No, it's excellent. I like it.
Excellent. Well, fun show tonight, episode 22 on Saturday Night Live, season 1. That was Elliot Gould.
Elliot
Famous
Gould
actor.
did quite a few Saturday Night Lives.
Did he? Yeah. Famous
He's right
actor.
up there.
He was in MASH, I believe, right?
Yes, he was. That was his big marquee role of his career. You bet.
Right on. Well, thanks for watching back home. Thank you all for
Thanks,
tuning in.
everybody.
A great episode. Mark,
Thanks,
you have
Aaron.
a great week. Good night, Landons. And Aaron, I'll see
Thanks,
you, I'm
Landon.
sure, sooner rather than later. Good night,
Thanks.
everybody.
Good night, everybody.